Hello, my lovely peaches. How are you? Welcome and welcome back. I really appreciate all my new subscribers. Thank you so much. And a lot of times I forget to suggest and offer and invite people to subscribe and hit the like and hit the bell. And so this is my reminder to say, hey guys, I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, which is a really small amount. And I'm almost there. And I have noticed that 50% of my videos are watched by non-subscribers. So if you could just hit subscribe, that would be super cool for me. And it's free. I would love that. Thank you so much. Also, I have posted another video for members only and for Patreon members. So it's actually already posted up there for Patreon members. If you are a Patreon member, it's already there. You can watch it. And it is more thoughts, my thoughts about Diabolical Karen Read. And I may or may not put that one up on publicly. For now, I'm going to just keep it for Patreon and members because I worked hard on it and it's a lot of thoughts. And I really am trying to get to the next level where I can actually start getting revenue and so forth. So thank you, Surviving the Survivor, Joel, and I screen recorded an hour's worth of testimony from Karen Read trial day 17, which was Brian Higgins' testimony. And in that testimony, he was questioned by prosecutor Lolly on the direct examination. And then defense attorney Alan Jackson was cross-examining him, which ended at the end of the day, but it's not ended. It will continue on Tuesday. So I don't know what else evidence may come up. I don't know what other texts they may show. I don't know what else all is going to happen. But there was several hours, it was a full day of testimony. I screen recorded specifically the part about the text messages. So what I really wanted to do was to react to the whole thing, but it's an hour long. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up this 2-minute clip where they missed a text that he didn't read, which I thought was interesting. And then I'm going to just let the hour of screen recording that I screen recorded from Surviving the Survivors page, which they posted, they live streamed court on Friday, May 24th, 2024. It is currently Sunday, May 26th, 2024. There is no court on Monday, tomorrow, because it is Memorial Day in the United States. And then court resumes Tuesday, which will be May 28th, 2024. So Friday was the first time in this trial that my, boop, is she guilty? Spidey senses, red flags kind of start going off. Up until this point, I've been like, this is a big old nothing burger. Thanks for the tea with nothing. And now it's starting to seem like maybe this is some scalding hot tea with not nothing, but lots of something. However, I have not seen the proof and the evidence that his injuries came from her SUV and all of that other stuff. So let me play this little clip that I wanted to just read and talk about, and then you can watch the whole hour. And I may or may not do another video, but the video that I put, I feel like I've already talked at length about my feelings about this text strain. And if you are interested in hearing my thoughts and the conclusions that I'm coming to and the dots that I'm connecting, then like I said, you can join me on Patreon. That video is available now. Okay? And once again, please subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any new videos the moment they come out. Also, please like and comment something interesting, nice, or funny. And then don't forget to share this video with any of your friends or family or colleagues who may be interested, or just share it on your own social media page. Thank you, and see you. Okay, I'm gonna read the video. Read the texts now. So I'm gonna read it, and then I'll play this same 2-minute clip with Brian Higgins' voice, and then we'll start back from the beginning of the texts all the way. Okay, so they've already been texting, and he's saying to her, how are you texting? And then she says, I'm just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. She says, yes, they are, meaning yes, they are asleep. Then Brian says, I should have stayed, LOL. So now what? Yes, you should have, she says. That would have been distracting. So no what, ... now. So now what? Now what? She says. Ball's in your court. What do you want? She asks. Loaded question, he says. What do you want? Then she says, I asked you. He says, nope, you initiated this, which is true because she was the one who went and got his phone number. Okay, so no, you're the one that initiated this. Okay, then he says, spit it out. Hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want, she says. Don't you have a boyfriend, he asks. Where are you? She says, not answering his question. Canton, he replies. Where? My office at the PD, police department. Why, are you going to Mansfield, he asks. Where is that? She says. Canton PD, he says. I have a house there from before I reconnected with John. He says, oh, ... Then he says, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind. Okay, so she's being evasive. He's asking her direct questions, and she is not answering. Okay, so then we go to the next thing. So let's see if I'll scroll back a tiny bit. Then she says, do you like me? He says, yes, clearly. She says, come over to my house. He says, when? She says, when works for you? He says, whenever, when works for you? I asked you first, she says. Then he says, I think you're messing with me. Then she doesn't respond to that directly. She says, I'm glad you came over tonight, with like a bashful face. Okay, then he says, me too. Ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You looked great tonight. Okay, this was the part where he didn't say it. They skipped over this. Okay, he says, you looked great tonight. And then her response to that was, let's see, where did it go? I looked great, ? You're full of it. The fuck? I wish they had read that. She says, I looked great, ? You're full of it. What a bitch. Then he says, I think you're hot. Always have thought that. Just have not revealed my thoughts. So this is why I said, I think she knew he had a crush on her and he was an easy target, or so she thought. Then she says, I'm hot for the hillside, low comps. So I really didn't know what the fuck that meant. But now that I've looked into it a little bit, what I think it means is, hold on, let me adjust this. So the hills is like this bar that she seems to like to hang out in. And somewhere in there as well, she said, everyone's happy at the hillside, which I did not know what that meant at first. But now I think what it means is it's a bar. Everybody's happy at the bar because they're fucking drunk and shit. So, and that's why he said something like, so she says, low comps, and I think she was putting herself down. Like, she's basically saying, I'm hot for the hillside. Low comps, meaning everybody else around here is fucking ugly. And so I'm hot here because there's nobody really compares to me around here. But I'm only hot because I'm here at this dive bar. That's kind of what I got out of that. Then he says, knock it off. You're hot, period. Are you glad you walked me out? Then she says, yes, with a smiley face. So also, side note, it's funny to me that as he's reading the texts out, with each emoji or like this, he's like semicolon and a mark. It's like, and then he's like with some kind of face, some kind of emoji. And it's so funny to me to think that, like, you know, when you pick an emoji, you think you're being really selective, and then he's like some kind of emoji. He doesn't even know what the fuck it is. That kind of was hilarious to me. So she says, yes, with semicolon and some kind of mark, a sideways face smile. Then she says, are you, question mark. He says, definitely. Okay. So these are in separate files because he had screenshotted them before he destroyed the phone. And that's something that Alan Jackson was trying to point out. Like, you destroyed the phone. However, Alan Jackson, as of now, has not whipped out pages of like, look at all these deleted texts that you didn't show, that show a whole nother part that you hid. And I feel like he would have brought that out, busted it out on Friday, but I don't know. Maybe he's waiting till Tuesday. Okay. But he didn't object and say, no, these are altered. So I think that kind of speaks for, okay. So Brian continues, are you going home tonight or tomorrow a.m.? Then she writes, we kissed, right? Question mark. Again, this is why I think that she was baiting him and trying to, she's playing a game. She's using him to get John jealous. Then he says, is this a trick question? ... Then, because she kissed him. So then he says, is this a trick question? Then she says, I don't know when I'm going home. I'm selling my house with some kind of face. I can't tell exactly what it is. So then she says, what a trick question, question mark, question mark, question mark. Then he says, are you moving to Canton? I am following your lead with this. Then she says, I live here, but I have a property in Mansfield. Then she says, why my lead? I don't want any responsibility. So he responds, you started this, right? Why did you get my number and reach out to me? He says, reach out to me, but then he says he meant reach out. Okay. And so he is repeatedly questioning her, like, I thought you had a boyfriend. I thought you were happy. You know, why did you reach out to me? Why did you get my number? Are you messing with me? And I think you're, you know, is this a trick question? So I feel that from the texts themselves, the texts speak for themselves. The texts prove, in my opinion, that this is a man who was, yeah, he was hot for her and he was curious and interested, but at the same time, he was super suspicious and like, what's going on? I thought you were happy with this nice guy. And then there's somewhere in there where she says, John just mentioned how he's liking you more and more. And he's like, well, I like him too. Like, what is your end goal here? Like, what, you know, what is this? This sounds like some fucking trickery fuckery to me. And I think that he knew it. So if you would like to hear me go on and on and on much more and connect more dots, then you can join me on Patreon. Oh, by the way, I should promote, I have officially started like I said, I was going to get a website. So I've decided to just go ahead with lovedreamingpeach.com. It is officially launched, although you can find links to some of my stuff on there. you can book time with me and things like that. However, I still have to flush it out. And of course, I have to add my handmade art to sell. And I'm going to start putting videos up there that I can sell, that if you don't want to join Patreon, you can buy individual videos or you can buy courses. But those things I'll be working on as, you know, time progresses. And also, I am, as you can see, if you've been following me for any amount of time, that I am making more and more of these true crime and following trials. And oh, I have to take that. So if you're interested in, oh, I got it. All right, I just had to get a delivery. I showed you guys this skirt, except it wasn't this skirt. It was one that's green. This one is kind of gold. And I had to get another one because it was so cute. I just love it, except there's no pockets, which really sucks. But other than that, other than the no pockets, it's super pretty. And I got a tank top to match, so I'll have a full outfit soon. Anyways, so again, thank you for clicking like and share and subscribe. And that's super cool and helpful. And I will be really happy to make a few pennies on all my hard work. And as I was saying, I will be updating my brand new website soon and adding some videos. So somebody had mentioned just do your dancing and stretching. And I was like, huh? And they're like, you know, I guess it was a backhanded compliment, because it's like, well, I love to do this too. So I don't know why I should have to limit myself to just one thing. But if you really love the dancing and stretching, as you know, you may have seen on my cat dancing and stretching YouTube, a lot of those videos that I had to privatize or just like remove because YouTube was like, no, your dancing and stretching in your living room is too salacious. I will be loading those videos for sale on YouTube as like a dancing and stretching bundle, maybe different ones. I don't know. I have to like start looking into that. But that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to launch my own website that's not on Patreon, where there's a lot of restrictions and stuff, and you have to have memberships and things like that. Although you can buy individual videos over there, but I really wanted to just have my own place where I can put my insight coaching services, some virtual consulting services, my handmade artwork for sale, and videos and video courses, and whatever else, my blog, and on and on. So this is just a promotion for myself and my new website, which I will be building out more and more and more. Again, it's lovedreamingpeach.com. It's available now. You can check it out. And I hope to see you over there. You can also, there's a little contact form where you can email me and you can send me a little message if you'd like to. And if you want to just send me a message directly, then you can email me at lovedreamingpeach@gmail.com. Okay, so I have so many things and thoughts to say about this hour of testimony, and I was recording the beginning of Alan Jackson's cross, but I really wanted to just focus specifically on the text messages. So the beginning of his cross, he talks about a lot of other things and background stuff. So I chopped that part out. And it, like I said, if you want to see the entire day without anybody commenting and without any cuts, you can go over to Surviving the Survivor, which is where I screen recorded the video.
I got you everything that page as well. So it starts off with the defendant saying, I just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. I said, I should have stayed LOL. So now what? Question mark. Defendant said, yes, you should have. I responded, that would have been distracting. So now what? So no, what? And then I said, now. Defendant said, now what? Question mark. I responded, balls in your court. Defendant said, what do you want? I responded, loaded question. What do you want? Question mark. Defendant responded, I asked you, exclamation point. I in turn said, nope, you initiated this.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, please. I can ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, spit it out. I'm in the blue bubbles. Defendant said, hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. I responded, don't you have a boyfriend? Question mark. Defendant responded, where are you? Question mark. I said, Canton. Defendant said, where? Question mark. I responded, my office is at the PD. Why? Why? Are you going to Mansfield? Question mark. Defendant responded, where is that? I said, Canton PD. Defendant said, I have a house there from before I reconnected W. John. I responded, oh, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind.
I'd like to turn your attention to the next page, 34, and ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant starts off and says, do you like me? Question mark. I responded, yes, clearly. Defendant said, come over my house. I responded, when? Question mark. Defendant said, when works for you? I said, whoever, and then whenever. When works for you? Question mark. The defendant said, I asked you first. I responded, I think you're messing with me. Defendant said, I'm glad you came over tonight, with some type of face. I responded, me too, ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You look great tonight.
I'd like to direct your attention to the next page, 35, and the last, or second to last blue bubble down the bottom, starting with Are You Glad? Do you see that?
Page 35?
Yes.
And where is it again?
Second to last blue bubble, starting with Are You Glad?
Yes. I said, I'm in the blue bubble. I said, are you glad you walked me out? Question mark.
And what did you respond?
Defendant said, yes, with like semicolon, some type of a mark there. Are you? Question mark. And I said, DEF for definitely.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 36. And if you could, please read from that.
So at the top, I'm in the blue bubbles. It says yes. And then I said, are you going home tonight or tomorrow AM? Defendant texted, we kissed, comma, right? Question mark. So then I put a question mark on her question and said, is this a trick question? Defendant, some type of question mark.
Second to last blue bubble, starting.
So I turned the air conditioning back on because it's just too hot to turn it off, and hopefully you can see me even though I look pink. I'm really just popping in because I have a screenshot. Let me see if I can move this over here a little better. That looks like a slightly better lighting. So I pointed out in the video that's on my Patreon account about Diabolical Karen Read that when she says to Brian Higgins, John already showed me the camera video of you walking me out or me walking you out 5 times, and he was like, what? Oh my God. And the puke face. I thought Karen is lying. Either she showed it to John or John has no clue. She's baiting Brian now. And although I don't know for sure, the fact that he then testifies that the night that John does pass away, that Friday, January 28th, when they came into the bar, so he was at the bar first, then John and Karen come in together. He said when they came in, they kind of go like this. John comes up to him and says hello, all friendly like, not pissed off, not like what the fuck, why are you walking my girl out, why are you fucking with my girl, none of that. So I feel like if that had happened, other people would have witnessed that and they would have talked about that. And I understand that the defense argument is that that's what's being covered up. The fact that Brian Higgins was so enraged and so jealous and so dejected and rejected that turned into this horrific physical fight where John ended up dead and all his friends helped throw the body on the lawn in the snow and cover up the murder. However, nobody testified to that. And there's video of the bar, which I feel like would have showed an argument or something that everybody lied and covered up to, if that had happened. So the fact that John greeted Brian that Friday night, January 28th, in a friendly way, and it was Karen who made a beeline off to somebody else, and Karen who didn't pay any attention. And in the defense's argument, Alan Jackson is saying, didn't Karen position herself all the way the farthest corner away from you that she possibly could? And he's like, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. Which also makes me think Karen was mentally concocting this whole thing. Karen thought she was ghosting him. Karen was the one who was Karening this whole plot. And Brian was just like, what's up with this chick? She's hot, but I don't understand. Like, isn't she with John? Don't they live together? I thought they were happy. What's going on? And she won't answer him. And Alan Jackson is trying to twist it as if he was coming after her when it was the exact opposite. He's like, you're the one who got my number. Why did you call me? Like, why are you reaching out to me? I don't understand it. Are you messing with me? Are you fucking with me? Like, this came out of the blue. You know? So, to me, that makes Brian Higgins sound extremely credible and truthful and honest. And like somebody pointed out, these cringe type things don't make him look so good. Well, that's only all the more reason why most likely it's true, because he's admitting and owning up to and taking responsibility and saying, I'm not proud of this, but it is what it is. And yeah, I like John, but I thought, you know, hey, if the relationship is ending, well, but then she was all freaking weird. Bad vibes, weird vibes. But I think the fact that when John came into the bar that night and he was all friendly with Brian Higgins, that's proof that she hadn't actually had this exchange with John where he was questioning her about why, you know, what's this on the camera, and being all jealous. That sounds like it's she was either making up or, you know, fantasizing, or was hoping would happen, or was planning or doing herself. But I still don't believe that it happened before that night, because I think John would have reacted differently. And I still maintain that the reason why she didn't want him to get into the party was because she didn't want Brian Higgins to be like, hey John, what's up dude? And check out all these weird texts from your girlfriend. What's up with the girl? Why is she coming after me? I thought you guys was happy. Look at how she said she didn't want to have kids and all the shit. You know, look at all this shit she's saying about you. It's not very nice. Did you know that she was saying all that shit about you? Karen was the one who had everything to lose that night, not Brian. Brian was the one who was like, I thought you was good. How are you ghosting somebody who literally was not expecting to hear from you? And when you reach out to them, they're like, I thought you was good. That's like the opposite of thinking that you're being ghosted. You're literally like, wait, why are you reaching out to me again? And then, yeah, at the bar, when he saw her, maybe there was a point where he was like, okay, you came into the bar, you didn't say hello to me, and maybe he did notice that she was not paying attention to him, and at some point he's like, hello, or whatever, and she never responded, and then John was dead. And now her defense attorney is trying to pin it on Brian Higgins. That's pretty fucked up to me. Alright, so now I want to try to react to this 1.5 minute video. And this is exactly why I'm going to just let the majority of it play, because it takes so long to react to even just 1.5 minutes. Because that's how it is. So I'm going to set this up here so that I can listen to it and not get the reverb, feedback, echo thingy. All right, let's hope that this works. So this is a section where, so again, I don't know if she's putting herself down as well as putting other people down. Like, I think that's what low comps is what she's talking about when she's saying, okay, so again, he says to her, I could go on and on, but I don't want to pump your shit up too much, meaning I don't want to give you a big head about, you know, complimenting you. Then she says, thanks for saying that, but low comps at Hillside. So again, I think she's putting other people down. She's putting herself down, but putting other people down. So she's like, the people, you know, the women, I guess, who go to this bar are not attractive. And so she's saying she only looks good because the people are ugly. And his response is, you know how to ruin something nice. I frequent other places. So what that tells me is that, yes, she's saying the only reason you think I'm attractive is because next to these ugly fucking women who go here, you think I look good. And so he's like, you know how to ruin something nice, meaning I'm complimenting you and you're turning it into a way to insult other people, and I go other places.
Something nice. I frequent other places. Pumps at the hillside. I responded, you know how to ruin something nice. I frequent other places. The defendant responded, John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out on Saturday, and my voice and my accent are killing me softly, with an emoji of somebody throwing up. I responded, what? Defendant responded, yeah, he has cameras everywhere, you cops, with another emoji. I responded, Jesus. Defendant said, he's like Christ. Are you guys hooking up? Question mark, question mark. And I started this, I said, OMG, great.
What the fuck? Yeah. All right, I'm going to pause that. I'm going to go back. Okay, so here it is. He's complimenting her, telling her, you look good. Then she puts down other people, which he didn't like. And he's like, you know how to ruin something nice. I frequent other places. Then this is what it's like. She's saying, John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out Saturday. And the thing that she thinks is important to point out about that is my voice and my accent are killing me softly. Bleh. And he's like, appropriately, what? Yeah, he has cameras everywhere. You cops, I roll. What the? This bitch is crazy. And he appropriately responds, Jesus. It's fine.
The defendant responded, John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out on Saturday, and my voice and my accent are killing me softly, with an emoji of somebody throwing up. I responded, what? Defendant responded, yeah, he has cameras everywhere, you cops, with another emoji. I responded, Jesus. Defendant said, he's like Christ. Are you guys hooking up? Question mark, question mark. And I started this, I said, OMG, great.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 78, sir.
I responded, I don't need drama, dude. Defendant said, no, it's fine. I responded, seriously? Defendant said, I'm serious, with an exclamation point. I said, you legit planted one on me. Defendant responded, I know where the cameras are anyway, duh. And then it was OMG Bruins with an emoji after that. I responded, so your slick move isn't on there, with some question marks? Defendant responded, course not. I responded, oh my God. And then I said, I almost, an emoji with somebody throwing up. Defendant responded, it was a peck anyway. I kissed Kerry and gay Jeff too. I responded, yeah, weak. I agree.
So in that part, later, Alan Jackson is trying to say that when he said, yeah, I agree about it being a peck, that he was agreeing it was just a peck. But I think that what he was saying, yeah, weak, like she's saying, oh, I kissed Kerry and gay Jeff. He's like, yeah, weak, meaning that is a weak ass response. And then he's when it was a peck anyway. And, you know, I think he says, I agree because, you know, maybe it wasn't all that. But that's just a little tiny bit about, like, wow. And that is what was happening. Then he said when she came over, it was just like more of that weird vibes, off vibes. They didn't even finish drinks. And there was no more physical stuff. Ouch. Yeah, so I'm sure there's still people on here who will say, oh, he deleted all the stuff that he didn't want anybody to see. He got rid of his phone so he could cover up all the other stuff that was really going on. And I mean, I'm not saying at this point in time that I've seen evidence that he was hit by her vehicle yet, but that's still to come, I'm imagining, because they have not rested their case. So when a case has still got more evidence to come out, more witnesses and experts and all that jazz, then it ain't over yet. But now more than ever, I am understanding where this might be going and why Karen had every reason to not want John to get into that party. Oh, and somebody else pointed out on a comment, what was your name? Something Karen, I think it was. You pointed out that Karen was saying she didn't know if she was invited, but Jen had said, park behind me. And didn't she also say, you're coming with me at the bar? So she knew she was invited, didn't she? That's a good point you pointed out. Thank you.
Exhibit 104 with you that was a little bit difficult to read. What we've taken all this time for as counsel is great to work out a form that is much clearer for you to be able to read, and that will be attached or right with Exhibit 104. Okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Higgins, first, Your Honor, may I request permission to publish it here on screen?
Yes.
Starting with page number 1. Now, Mr. Higgins, what's up on screen is that what you have before you as Exhibit 104A?
Yes.
And as you just mentioned, these are text messages between yourself and Ms. Read, is that correct?
Yes.
And on what dates did you first receive any communication from Ms. Read?
January 12th, 2022.
And prior to that, had you had her number, or did she have your number as far as you were aware?
No.
You had never communicated to her via cell phone or any other means prior to January 12th, 2022?
No, I had not.
So initially, you received a text on that date from an unknown number, is that correct?
Yes.
And from the text before you, and what's up on the screen, as far as there are gray bubbles on the left, blue bubbles on the right, which is you and which is Ms. Read?
The blue bubbles would belong to myself.
So the other bubbles would be Ms. Read, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And so that initial communication you received on January 12th, 2022, that's about 8:27 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the content of the message that you received?
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Hey, Brian, it's Weed Whacker.
And how did you respond to that?
Question mark.
And if it's helpful to you, sir, if you can't see the screen sort of from where you are, you can read along in the exhibit before you.
Okay.
Now, as far as that communication is concerned, is the Weed Whacker, what, if any, meaning did that have to you? Or
So ultimately, it was based off a interaction with the defendant, kind of a nickname that she adopted.
and how did that nickname sort of come to be, or what, if anything, transpired between the two of you that led to that?
So I was leaving, I believe, my residence one day in Canton, traveling down Pleasant Street. I saw the defendant along the side of the house on the Pleasant Street side using a weed whacker, and I gave kind of a beep of the horn, and the defendant gave me the finger. So I realized that she clearly must not recognize me possibly because what I was driving, I was in my work vehicle. So I spun the vehicle around, and as I pulled up to roll down the window, she said something to the effect, "Get the fuck away from me, my husband's a Boston cop." And then I rolled down the window more, and she clearly recognized me, who I was in that vehicle.
And did that become sort of a recurring theme in subsequent conversations that you had with Ms. Read?
Yes.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 6 within that exhibit before you.
They're not numbered, right, Mr. Lally?
I'm sorry?
They're not numbered. Is your copy numbered?
No, Your Honor. Not that I can see.
They're not, so be cognizant of that when you ask questions.
You know, I believe they are, that's why I hesitated.
Are you,
It's sort of in the middle of the page, facing sideways. Front page.
my apologies. I have it now. Very small.
So just on this page, directing your attention to the bottom, it sort of goes on to the next date of January 13th, is that correct?
Yes.
And if I could direct your attention to page 7 of those text messages, and it's going to look like I have page 7 on the screen. And sir, if you could read from page 7, and if you could just indicate who's speaking and what is being said in this communication.
So again, I'm in the blue bubbles. Did you try those Smirnoff screwdrivers? I stopped at the Hilly for one last night. I said, haha, how did you get my digits? Defendant responded, the Melissa and Lito show. I said, haha, I thought you creeped John's phone. I said, haha, again. Defendant responded, no way, I was the last person in Greater Canton who didn't have your number. I think even Kerry has it. I responded, what, with a bunch of question marks? I said, I just don't give my personal number out to anyone. How would Kerry have my number with a bunch of question mark? And the defendant responded, Melissa had it.
As far as in those communications, the reference the defendant makes to the Melissa Lito show, do you know what that means?
The two individuals that I also know from the hillside.
And the Kerry person that she refers to, do you know who that is?
I believe that's Kerry Curran, Chris Curran's wife.
Now, if I could direct your attention to page 9. And if you can find that page 9. And again, sir, if you could read from page 9 as far as that conversation goes, and just indicate whom is speaking at different points.
Okay, so the defendant said, I prefer weed whacker. I responded, that's the thing about nicknames. Defendant said, we were tossing around the idea of a short vacay with the current show, wanted to see if you were game. I responded, you don't have a say. And I believe I was referring to nicknames. And I said, vacation where? Defendant responded, I know. They need to happen organically. I'm the queen of nicknames. Was just going to rent a beach house in, I believe it was supposed to say Fort Lauderdale. It's abbreviated. Something quick and easy. I said, Defendant responded, I'm the queen of vacays too. Always a good time. I responded, I'm going to Nashville next month, 19th to 21st for a benefit. One of our guys got shot in the head. You guys should come.
As far as either one of those trips that you were discussing, do you recall any further discussion or any going on any of those trips?
Well, I mean, I definitely went to Nashville for that benefit for one of my coworkers. There may have been more conversation about the Florida trip, but I can't specifically recall it.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 16, and if I can have that. And this is on that same date of January 13th, is that correct?
I believe so. The date's not at the top here, but I believe it is.
And again, sir, if you could read from that page of communication as far as who was speaking and what was said.
So there's a photograph of somebody with a weed whacker. The defendant said, no, you're not a creep. I said, nope. She said, you're kind of a loner, which I used to be. I responded, no, not really. I have a ton of buddies, but I only let a handful of friends in that I'm tight with. So you think you got me figured out? And then I typed circle of trust in quotes.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next page, number 17. I'm just coming back to that. And again, sir, if you could read from page 17 as far as what is said and who was talking.
So the defendant said, yeah, I said loner, not loser. I assume you know a lot of people, PPL, people abbreviated. You never really can figure anyone out completely. Your dad died when you were young, and I responded, he died in March of 2020. I'm so not a loser, you won't figure me out, LOL. Defendant responded, no one is a loser. I just didn't mean loner to imply friendless. I'm sorry that's recent. It wasn't COVID, was it? I responded, cancer. Defendant responded, I know you date girls who don't lock the house behind them, and you are private and observant. I'm sorry, what kind? I responded, lung, brain, kidney, and pelvis. How do you know all these things, LOL?
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 18. And again, sir, if you could read from that.
In the blue bubbles is me. I said, you're funny. Defendant responded, yikes, wow, that's rough. Jesus, I'm sorry. We chat a lot at the hillside. I responded, don't be sorry. Life is hard sometimes. I always figure it out. Then I said, who chats? Question mark. Defendant responded, life is hard, but losing people is the hardest. So I'm sorry. We chat. I responded, that's all you got? We chat? Sure, you're from Brockton. Spit it out. Defendant responded, you and I chatted about the girl who kept forgetting to lock the door. I said, oh, she has been out of play like for 3 months now. And then I believe it starts to say out of rotation, question mark.
And then, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 20. And again, sir, if you could read from that.
I'm in the blue bubbles again. I said, I just got a Saturday invite. The defendant said, did you say yes, question mark? I said, not yet, with a bunch of periods, but did respond. Defendant said, what did you say, Mr. Elusive? I responded, no, I just don't want to intrude on your couple's night. Haha, I'm shy. The defendant responded, we prefer to hang out with non-couples. Bob Gallery is probably coming too, solo. We'll probably do cards or something at some point. I'm inviting you. And I said, haha.
Now, sir, is that the Saturday night that's being referenced there? Is that the same night that you had gone over to the home at some point for the Patriot game?
Yes.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, page 21.
Yes.
And again, if you could read from that.
The defendant said, John said Brian's being wishy-washy now, in quotes. I responded, haha, did you tell him you texted me? The defendant responded, no. And then I gave a thumbs up. Then I said, you cranky now, question mark? Defendant said, haha, no, just stop being so anti-couples. Most couples don't even like each other. I said, name a few. Defendant said, name a few? I don't know. All of them. Question mark. They all want to hang out with single people. And then I said,
Thank you. Sir, if I could direct your attention to page 26. And sir, if I could ask you to read from that page.
In blue is going to be myself again. Foul ball. Defendant responded, you stink. I said, you suck and you're double trouble. Defendant responded, you're hot. I responded, are you serious or messing with me? Defendant responded, no, I'm serious. I responded, failing is mutual. Is that bad? How long have you thought that? Defendant responded, are you okay driving? You don't want to stay here. I responded back, I'm fine. I have an office at the PD. You didn't answer the question. And then it starts to say, defendant said, rather you stay here.
And is that, to your memory, when is that text exchange taking place? In reference to the night that you went over to the Okies house.
I believe it was that night.
Now, at Mr. Okies' house on that particular evening, do you recall how you came into the house?
I believe it might have been the front door.
And if you know about how long were you at Mr. Okies' house that night?
I was probably one of the last people to leave, I think.
And what, if anything, happened as you were exiting from Mr. Okies' house that night?
So as I was exiting, the house. It was either through the breezeway or the garage. And as we were walking out, the defendant planted a kiss on me.
Now, before you went out that way, where was Mr. O'Keefe? Did you say goodbye to him or anything like that?
I think I said goodbye to him. He might have been in the bathroom. I'm not 100% positive where he was.
And when you went to leave, which exit from the house were you headed to initially?
Well, as I said, I don't remember exactly if it was the breezeway or the garage I was starting to walk through. But whichever way I started to exit, the defendant told me to go a different way.
And which way did the defendant tell you to go?
Well, her way. I honestly can't tell you which door that was. If it was either the breezeway or the garage.
And as you were going out, again, I'm sorry, what happened?
The defendant kissed me.
And how did she kiss you?
Not like a friend.
Lip to lip, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Like a romantic kiss?
That's the way I interpreted it.
And were you still inside the house at the time that this occurred, or were you outside the house, if you know?
Not sure if we had just got to the outside or not. It might have. I'm not sure if it was close proximity to leaving.
And what was your reaction to that?
I was taken back.
Was that something that you were expecting?
No.
And about how long was it between when the defendant kissed you and when you left?
Oh, almost immediately.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention back to the exhibit before you on page number 27.
Yes.
Again, sir, if you could read from that page and who's speaking.
So I'm in the blue bubbles, and I said, I think you're messing with me. The defendant said, why do you think that? I responded, because this is so out of left field. Where did these feelings come from? Defendant responded, I just think you're like me. I said, meaning? Question mark. Defendant said, do you have your own kids? I said, I have no kids. How am I like you? Question mark. Hello? And defendant responded, aren't we alike? I responded, I think so. So why did you get my number and reach out to me? And I think the defendant put a question mark on that bubble, I believe. Or I might have, I don't know.
Now, that conversation, as far as you asking her about why she reached out to you, how often was that question asked by you through the course of these text communications?
Well, the extent of the actual communication via text between the defendant and I was between January 12th and January 29th when John passed. On the 28th and 29th, the 28th I sent a text, as we spoke about before when we were at the waterfall. That text didn't respond. There was a text sent by the defendant to me the next day. So in that time period between the 12th and the 29th, there was 9 days that the defendant and I exchanged text messages. With that being said, those text messages, I don't believe, were every day, consecutive days. There was 9 days in between the 12th and the 29th.
And so as far as that questioning, as far as posing to her, why did she reach out to you? Was that something that you asked once or more than once?
Yeah, I asked it more than once, and during the pendency of this communication, I was basically trying to suss out what the intentions were of the defendant. Was the defendant interested in me? Was she at the end of her relationship with John? Was she trying to weaponize me against John and put me in the middle? There was numerous things that were going on, and that's what I was trying to vet out or suss out, or whatever you want to call it, but I was having a hard time accepting what was happening.
And sir, if I could direct you to the next page, page 28. And again, sir, if you could read from that page.
So I'm in the blue bubbles. Shoot straight with me. Defendant responded, I told you, I just think we're alike, right? Couple question marks. I responded, yes, agree. Now what? Defendant responded, I don't know. I said, shouldn't you know? Defendant responded, do you like me? I said, yes, from jump. Defendant said, when was jump? I said, first time I saw you. Defendant responded, when was that? I said, Hillside, for your sure.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 29. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
So again, I'm in the blue bubbles. Hillside for sure. When were you interested? Defendant responded, I don't know, you're just my type. I responded, you think you can handle me? I thought you were happy, question mark. Defendant responded, how do you know if I'm happy? I said, I just assumed. Defendant responded, are you hard to handle? I may have put a question mark. Then I said, what do you like about me? Defendant responded, I just feel like you're from my neighborhood. I said, yes, yeah, ditto. Defendant responded, and I think you're hot.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, page 30. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
I'm in the blue bubbles again. You really think that? I have always thought that about you. Defendant responded, what? I responded that you're hot, smart, witty, but I didn't think you were interested. Defendant responded, witty? I responded, yeah, meaning quick with a response. Tell me why you got my number and reached out to me. Defendant responded, just thought we were the same / from the same neighborhood. I responded, are you afraid to say what's on your mind? What's in your mind? And then I said, on. Defendant responded, no, didn't I? No, didn't I? Question mark.
And sir, if I could turn your attention, to the next page, 31, and ask you to read from that.
I'm glad I'm in the blue bubble again. I'm glad I stopped by. I should have come earlier. Do you really live in Mansfield? Defendant responded, yeah. I was basically begging you. I responded, you don't have to beg me. I meant to say beg. Defendant responded, huh? I said, I will give you what you want. How are you texting right now? And I said, leaving me hanging. Defendant responded, no. I typed kids and then kinda. Defendant responded, how am I texting? And I began to say, is everyone asleep?
As far as the communication from the defendant indicating, yeah, I was basically begging you, what did you take that to mean?
That you wanted me to come over?
And if I could turn your attention to the next page, 32. If I could ask you to read from that page as well.
So it starts off with the defendant saying, I just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. I said, I should have stayed LOL. So now what? Question mark. Defendant said, yes, you should have. I responded, that would have been distracting. So now what? So no, what? And then I said, now. Defendant said, now what? Question mark. I responded, balls in your court. Defendant said, what do you want? I responded, loaded question. What do you want? Question mark. Defendant responded, I asked you, exclamation point. I in turn said, nope, you initiated this.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 33. If I could ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, spit it out. I'm in the blue bubbles. Defendant said, hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. I responded, don't you have a boyfriend? Question mark. Defendant responded, where are you? Question mark. I said, Canton. Defendant said, where? Question mark. I responded, my office is at the PD. Why? Are you going to Mansfield? Question mark. Defendant responded, where is that? I said, Canton PD. Defendant said, I have a house there from before I reconnected W. John. I responded, oh, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 34, and ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant starts off and says, do you like me? Question mark. I responded, yes, clearly. Defendant said, come over my house. I responded, when? Question mark. Defendant said, when works for you? I said, whoever, and then whenever. When works for you? Question mark. The defendant said, I asked you first. I responded, I think you're messing with me. Defendant said, I'm glad you came over tonight, with some type of face. I responded, me too, balls in your court. What do you want, Karen? You look great tonight.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 35, and the last, or second to last blue bubble down the bottom, starting with Are You Glad? Do you see that?
Page 35?
Yes.
And where is it again?
Second to last blue bubble, starting with Are You Glad?
Yes. I said, I'm in the blue bubble. I said, are you glad you walked me out? Question mark.
And what did she respond?
Defendant said, yes, with like semicolon, some type of a mark there. Are you? Question mark. And I said, DEF for definitely.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 36. And if you could, please read from that.
So at the top, I'm in the blue bubbles. It says yes. And then I said, are you going home tonight or tomorrow AM? Defendant texted, we kissed, comma, right? Question mark. So then I put a question mark on her question and said, is this a trick question? Defendant said, I don't know when I'm going home. I'm selling my house, with what I think is a smiley face. What a trick question, and a couple of question marks. I responded, are you moving to Canton? I'm following your lead with this. Defendant responded, I live here, but I have property in Mfield. I'm guessing it's Medfield. Defendant said, why my lead? I don't want any responsibility. I responded, you started this, right? Question mark. Why did you get my number? And it says each out to me. It meant to say reach out to me. I then said, still have not told me.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next page, 37, and ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, sorry, should I not have? I responded, I'm fine with it. Just don't know why you can't answer. Defendant said, you're mad at me? I said, OMG, no, not at all. You're being silly. Defendant said, I told you, exclamation point. I just think you like me and I'm attracted to you. And then she said, a lot. I responded, feeling is mutual. I just never saw this coming. Defendant said, why? Question mark. I responded, because I just assumed you were happy with your situation. Defendant responded, I was, but things have deteriorated.
And if I could direct your attention to the next page, 38, and ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, why? Question mark. How so? Question mark. What did Melissa say when you asked for my number? Question mark. Defendant responded, it is very, very complicated. He and I dated when we were kids, and then his sister died, and everything got fucked up. I responded, he seems very into you. Defendant responded, I just told Melissa that I had your number but lost it. I said, that's cute. She wasn't suspicious? Question mark. Defendant responded, no, she's great. I responded, does she know you like me? Question mark. Defendant responded, she's a sweetie. We just agreed. You are great. With another smiley type face.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 40, and ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, yeah, but where is that? I have had all my shit here for a couple years and my house has been vacant, but I'd like to get closer to the water. I responded, are you breaking up or staying together? Defendant responded, I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I'm very close to his niece. It is a very fucked up situation. I responded, when was that and how did you find out he hooked up? Question mark. I don't want to complicate your situation. Defendant responded, we went away for New Year's, the four of us. I put the kids to bed and found him in the lobby of our hotel all over one of our friends. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I responded, it does matter.
Now, as far as that indication that she made to you, either through text communications or in person, did she indicate at any point in time where that occurred? So
there was an occasion that the defendant stopped at my house. And again, the conversation that took place at my house was in relation to, again, sussing out and trying to figure out if this was everything that I stated before. Like, was this legitimate? Was she seriously interested in me? Was she at the end of her relationship with John? And during that, there was touch on that topic, and I became to realize, it was my understanding at that point that this incident took place in Aruba on New Year's Eve, based off the text messages and the conversation at my residence.
This was something that she brought up not only in the text communications with you, but in person in communication with you as well.
Yes, I mean, outside of being over there for the game, there was only one time that the defendant and I ever interacted on a one-on-one basis.
If I could direct your attention to the next page, 41, and ask you to read from that.
So I'm in the blue bubbles, and I said, did they bang? Question mark. The defendant responded, does that matter, question mark. I said, sorry, I was just asking. I was just trying to figure shit out. Defendant responded, it doesn't really matter. I said, okay, I won't ask again. Defendant said, I don't care, with a smiley face. It doesn't matter. I responded back, okay, hear you loud and clear, Karen. Defendant responded, okay. I responded, why are you getting your thing all twisted up over simple questions? And then I typed on. Defendant responded, I'm not. I am, question mark. I responded, you're kind of getting defensive. Defendant responded, not at all, with an exclamation point.
Thank you, sir. If I could direct your attention to page 46. Ask you to read from that.
Defendant is in gray. She said, we did kiss earlier, comma, no, with an exclamation point. I responded in blue bubble, I think you initiated that, no, question mark. Defendant said, yup, do I owe you an apology, question mark. I said, OMG, no, why are you being sensitive? Defendant responded, I'm not. I responded, kinda. There's a P and a FFT, never, responded by the defendant. What do you want from me, question mark. I responded, what's on the table, question mark. Defendant said, what do you want ideally, question mark. I responded, the real deal. Defendant responded, it doesn't exist.
Thank you, sir. I could direct your attention to page 57, sir. And ask you to read from that.
It starts off in blue. I said, I can go to any base, but usually Hanscom and Bedford are down to the Cape. Defendant responded, which base down the Cape? Which branch? I said, Army's Army. Defendant said, I'm not abnormally sensitive. I responded, Joint Base Cape Cod. Oh, I won't be so hard on you. Defendant responded, OMG, you're not. You called me trouble. That makes me sound bad. I responded, I was just playing with you. Defendant responded, you weren't, but that's okay. I responded, stop being sensitive, please. Defendant responded, I'm not.
Now, sir, reference, in that page of text communications, you made reference to a base down the Cape, is that right?
Yes.
And where is that in relation to where you live in Barnstable County?
So I can utilize one of the gates to get onto the base. I can get fuel. I can shop. I then can hit the Bourne Bridge, and I would use that as a cut through at the time when I was splitting my time between two different properties.
Is there also like a duty-free shop there?
There is, yes.
And at some point throughout the course of the text communications, did you offer to pick something up for the defendant from that shop?
I believe so.
If I could direct your attention to page 60. And ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, I don't know, question mark. It's an old colonial. It has a lot of bedrooms, with kind of an emoji. I responded, more than you clearly need. Are you moving to Canton, question mark. Defendant said, I know, seriously. Some rooms I only go into dust. Not anytime soon. I'm there most of the time, but sometimes it's a lot. I responded, a lot, why, question mark. Defendant responded, I then said, do you even know what you want, question mark, or who, question mark. Defendant responded, because I went from being solo to trying to give attention to kids who aren't mine, and I never wanted kids. I responded, I thought you were in this happy relationship. Defendant responded, everyone is happy at the hillside.
If I could direct your attention to the next page 61 and ask you to read from that.
So it starts off with the defendant. It said, everyone is happy at the hillside, exclamation point. I responded, oh God, you avoid things. Defendant responded, it's just very, very complicated, dynamic with the four of us. He isn't cut out for what he's doing, and the kids present constant issues. I responded, I think he believes he is doing the right thing. Defendant responded, well, of course he is, but his heart isn't in it. It's only because he was very, very close to his sister. I responded back, I know how you feel, kinda. I was married, and when I met her, she had a 2.5-year-old. I went from being single to being a dad. It's hard. Then I said, I'm divorced since 2017 and have no kids.
If I could ask you to turn to the next page 62 and ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, I'm divorced since 2017 and I have no kids. Defendant responded, I try very hard, but they are very spoiled, and they're not my family. My parents keep telling me I'd feel differently if they were mine or my own sisters. Then I told you he got drunk and sloppy on NYE while we were away, and that has really affected me. I responded, what did he exactly do, question mark. Defendant responded, I never got married, and now somehow I'm arguing someone about raising kids with an emoji. I responded, why don't you tell me, question mark. Defendant responded, he was a puddle all day and then disappeared. Then I found him all over our friend's sister in the lobby of our hotel, and she's gross, which I think may actually be worse, not sure. I responded, oh God, did they bang?
And ask you to turn to the next page, sir, page 63, if you could read from that.
I'm in the blue. I said, did they bang, question mark. Defendant said, so I was the kids celebrating New Year's, I think it's without him, which shouldn't be my role. No, I doubt it. He was a mess. I said, was it the first time with her, or do you think there were others? Defendant responded, I don't really think there were others. I'm with him all the time. He never seems to want to go anywhere, without me. But honestly, the issues with the kids bother me more than him actually cheating. They are constant, and it feels like a lose-lose. I responded, you clearly have a lot of feelings swirling inside you. Defendant responded, yeah, it's very complicated. Sorry for the rant. I responded, or began to respond, you can vent, babe.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 64, ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, basically, I just feel like I spread myself too thin, and sometimes it's thankless. I responded, Defendant responded, you probably felt that way too. I responded, I did at times. It was 1, not 2, thankfully. Defendant responded, want to grab a drink, question mark. I responded, if you gave me some notice, I could have. Defendant responded, you in capital letters said you were adaptable. I responded, I am, but I have my work truck with me and not my personal. Do you get angry when you don't get your way? Defendant responded, that sounds like an excuse. I really get my way.
Now, as far as her invitation, is that something that occurred on one time or more than one time?
I believe it was more than one time.
And at any point in time, other than the two you've already recounted, as far as going over to Mr. O'Keefe's house for the football game or the defendant stopping by your apartment in West Roxbury, were there any other occasions you went out over the defendant's house or out with the defendant by yourself?
No, never.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 74, as you read from that.
Defendant said, are you single? Question mark. I responded, yes. Defendant said, I don't think it's out of left field. Wasn't I already begging you to come over last Saturday? Question mark, question mark. I responded, you getting my number from Melissa and reaching out to me? Question mark. Defendant said, and on vacay and probably a few other occasions. I responded, you didn't, it should say you didn't really beg. Defendant said, I asked at least twice. How do people usually reach out to each other? Question mark, question mark. I responded, why would I have thought you had any interest in me? Question mark. Usually do it when they do live with, do it when they do live with someone. And then I said, do not do it. Defendant responded, maybe, maybe not.
Thank you, sir. If I could direct you to page 77. And ask you to read from that, sir.
I said, I could go on and on, but I do not want to pump. It should say your shit up too much. Defendant responded, thanks for saying that, but low comps at the hillside. I responded, you know how to ruin something nice. I frequent other places. The defendant responded, John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out on Saturday, and my voice and my accent are killing me softly, with an emoji of somebody throwing up. I responded, what? Defendant responded, yeah, he has cameras everywhere, you cops, with another emoji. I responded, Jesus. Defendant said, he's like Christ, are you guys hooking up? Question mark, question mark. And I said, OMG, great.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 78, sir.
I responded, I don't need drama, dude. Defendant said, no, it's fine. I responded, seriously? Defendant said, I'm serious with an exclamation point. I said, you legit planted one on me. Defendant responded, I know where the cameras are anyway, duh. And then it was OMG Bruins with an emoji after that. I responded, so your slick move isn't on there with some question marks? Defendant responded, course not. I responded, oh my God. And then I said, I almost, an emoji with somebody throwing up. Defendant responded, it was a peck anyway. I kissed Kerry and gay Jeff too. I responded, yeah, weak. I agree.
Now, as far as cameras at Mr. O'Keefe's house, is that something that you were aware was there prior to that conversation with the defendant?
No, not that I recall.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 79. Ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, LOL, funny. I responded, so now he is jealous of me, question mark. Defendant said, no, with an exclamation. I told you, he likes you a lot. I said, which makes this worse, question mark. Defendant said, you said or did something at the bar last week, and he goes, I like Brian more and more. I responded, I think he's a good dude too. Defendant responded, yeah, he is. I responded, funny. What's your end game? What do you want from me? You will just confuse it should say the shit out of yourself, because I'm a lot of fun.
Now, sir, the he that you're referring to in those text communications, who was that, just for clarity?
John O'Keefe.
And if I could direct your attention to page 84. And ask you to read from that page, sir.
I said, it was fun. Defendant said, I've complimented you today too, with a couple of exclamation points and then some type of emoji. I said, and kicked my nuts in. Defendant said, OMG, how? I responded, if I had more notice, I would have grabbed a drink somewhere, so I'm all set with, that's, and then I said, in quotations, that's fine, but I am not asking again. Defendant said, well, it was 7 p.m. and I'm super cool, so right now I'm asking again with some type of a, I think it's a smiley face. I responded, coming to your house would have been bad for the both of us. For starters, you wouldn't have wanted me to leave. The defendant responded, now equals not. That sounds good. I responded, that's trouble. Defendant said, why, question mark.
And if I could direct your attention to page 90. Ask you to read from that, sir.
9-0?
90, yes.
The defendant said, no, I'm busting your chops, it's okay. I responded, no, you are sensitive, nice try. You don't think if I came over for a drink, we would have gotten carried away. Defendant said, you in capital letters said you were adaptable and tons of fun. I took that as an invite for an invite. And I responded, oh, okay. Defendant responded, I'm 42, I know what happens when you invite someone over for a drink. I responded, you're the master of avoidance, so you think I would just give it up. Defendant responded, I've been a lot in my life. I have a little bit of cop DM mindset, and then said, been through.
And if I could direct you to the next page, 91, sir.
Defendant said, what am I avoiding, question mark. I'm not afraid to be direct. I responded, some of my questions. Defendant responded, okay, which? Ask again. I said, nope, tricks are for kids. Defendant responded, I'm pretty sure we would have hooked up. I responded, okay. Defendant said, I can't say that, question mark. I said, of course you can. Defendant said, did I miss any other questions, sir, question mark. Probably, are you having a drink right now, question mark. Defendant said, yeah, on my second. I said, show me what you got.
And if I could direct your attention to page 99. Ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, none of that is true, exclamation point. I'm not talking to other guys, and I have issues with John, and things are far from perfect. You just happen to know about him, BC, I guess, because we all hang out at the same bar. I'm sure you talk to other girls. That's what single people do. I'm not married, neither are you, neither is John. I responded, was that your attempt at a lecture or deductive reasoning, question mark? What do you want from me, question mark? Defendant said, that's just how I think / feel. You don't need to approve. I've already answered that last question a couple of times, I think. I responded, I'm not judging you, never have, never will. Defendant responded, you shouldn't. I don't know what your private life is about, nor is it my business.
Thank you, sir. If I can now direct you to page 102. And ask you to read from that.
Defendant said, my only, I'm assuming, point is that there's a difference between being married to someone and dating them, and we have no intention of ever getting married. The point of dating is not to get tied down. If you're not confident, you should be, in my mind anyway. The first two, but I don't care too much about the other girl. I responded, okay, so he is cool with you dating other people, question mark. Defendant responded, and I'm not happy per se, just realistic that there's cracks and it's far from perfect. I doubt it. If he's seeing someone else, I wouldn't want to know either way. He probably feels the same way, and you probably feel that way about whoever you hook up with. I think that's normal. I responded, okay. Defendant said, you don't agree with me, question mark, question mark.
If I could direct your attention to page 107. Ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, at a bar, question mark. I responded, I wasn't suggesting anytime soon. I know you're with your friend. I meant my house. Probably after 8. Defendant said, probably after 8. I responded, okay, if you don't want her, that's fine, no pressure. Defendant responded, I will, a drink. It looks like I tapped the bubble with a question mark. I then said, what do you drink, question mark? Are you out now, question mark? Defendant responded, sorry, I'll drink whiskey if that's what you're having. I responded, haha, send me a pic of you two.
Now, you had testified earlier about some occasion prior to the 28th when the defendant had come over your house in West Roxbury, correct?
Yes.
In this page that you just read, as well as some of these successive pages after that, is that sort of arranging for that to occur after she goes out or leaves from a friend out in Boston?
I believe she was out with a friend that night in Boston, a female friend, yes.
And that evening when she came over your house, about how long was she there?
Not long.
And so what happened when she arrived, or what, if anything, did the two of you talk about?
It was kind of more of this. It was a kind of it wasn't an interrogation. It was a face-to-face version of trying to suss out and vet, like, what is this all about? Again, I mean, I'm not proud of these text messages. It is what it is. I'll take responsibility for them. But, John was a friend at the same time, and I certainly wasn't, if they were at the end of the relationship, they were at the end of the relationship, but I wasn't going to have somebody utilize me and weaponize me against somebody that I liked. And it was just a weird experience. It was, I don't even think either one of us finished a drink. It was, like I said, it was this type of, like, what is this all about? And then she left. I think I might have asked her to text me when she got in, so I knew she got home.
Now, that evening or at any other point, in your friendship or your relationship, whatever, however you want to term it, was there any other sort of intimate contact beyond what you described occurring as she walked you out that night you were over at Mr. O'Keefe's house for the Patriots?
Are you asking if she ever kissed me again?
I'm asking if there was any kissing, any sexual relationship, anything at all between yourself and the defendant?
Absolutely not. In referring to at my residence when she stopped by, it was just, I was very uncomfortable, and it was just an uncomfortable situation. Just a weird vibe. That's the best I can describe it.
And lastly, sir, lastly as it applies to this, turning your attention to the last page, number 118. And there's a couple different dates from the middle to the bottom of the page, is that correct?
There is.
If I could ask you to start reading from, excuse me, where it says Sunday, January 23rd, 9:40 p.m.
Defendant, so Sunday, January 23rd at 9:40 p.m., defendant texted me, phone works, and then an emoji with arrows going like both ways. And I responded, thought you were all set, question mark. Defendant said, with talking, question mark? No. I said, are you sure? And she didn't respond, and I believe I said, that was it for that, the 23rd, I'm sorry.
So then the next date that any text communication was sent between the two of you would have been Friday, 11:32 p.m., is that correct?
That's correct. That would have been when we were at the waterfall.
And again, what does the text say there?
Well.
And that's from you to her, is that correct?
Yes.
And then the next text communication is the following day, or Saturday, the 29th at 11:54 a.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And who is speaking in that communication, and what is it?
That is the defendant, and the defendant said John died.
And did you respond to that at all?
No.
And did you have any other communication with Ms. Read following receiving that text message on January 29th?
No, I have not.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gilman, you can take it. Sir, if I could, a couple more questions for you, taking you back on the early morning of January 29th when you had come from Waterfall to Fairview and then you were leaving from Fairview, if I could turn that sort of portion into your mind. When you're pulling away from the residence, the period of time that you were talking about as far as the plow being down and scraping a little bit on the ground, can you recall that?
I do.
About how much distance are we talking about with respect to that?
Distance less than a foot, I would say. I mean, it's real quick. I heard it.
And then as far as when you're familiar with an area in the front of Mr. Albert's property at 34 Fairview where there is a flagpole and fire hydrant?
I do know where that is, yes.
And as you drove by the house that evening, where were you in relation to that part of the yard?
When I drove away?
Yes.
Well, I might have been I was in the street. I pulled away, so that area would be on my passenger side.
And so what I'm asking, sir, is as you pulled away, did you pull away alongside the curb? Did you pull to the middle of the street? Or where did you direct the vehicle to go as you were pulling away?
Like any other time, I pulled away from the curb, and that's kind of a, I mean, it's a one-lane street, so to speak, and nobody was coming towards me, so just pulled out into the street, drove away.
Let me have a moment, John.
Yes.
No further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
I'll see you for 1 minute over here at sidebar before we begin. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Now there's a break, and I'm just gonna let it roll. I think it's on 1.75 or 2 times speed, so it's on Karen. I really wonder what she's thinking and feeling right now. I still feel bad for her, even though I agree she's a diabolical, evil person, but kind of feel bad for somebody being that evil in a way. So Prosecutor Lawley asked all of his direct questions. Now it's defense attorney Alan Jackson cross-examining him.
Down there in Charlestown, and I'm assuming he drove back towards that way to meet me.
He wasn't with anybody else?
Not that I know of.
So he was drinking at the Hillside Bar and then got in his car and drove over to the waterfall as well?
I didn't see him drive over, but I assume that's what he did, yes.
You went to John O'Keefe's house. I'm going to shift gears for a second. You went to John O'Keefe's house at some point to watch the Patriots game on January 16th, right?
Yes.
That was the time when you indicated that when you left, Karen gave you a kiss goodbye, correct?
Yes.
It's safe to say that that was not some hot, passionate, long kiss, but you think it was more than just a friendly peck, correct?
I wouldn't describe it as a peck. I describe it as more than friends. It was a kiss.
Well, you did describe it as a peck, didn't you?
When?
When you texted Karen Read and she said it was just a peck, and then you texted back, I agree.
Figure of speech.
What truth, right?
Figure of speech.
After that incident, it's safe to say, we've just gone through a number of them, you exchanged flirtatious texts with Miss Read. Is that right?
Is the incident you're referring to when she kissed me?
No, I'm saying after that. After that incident, yes, after the Patriots game.
Okay, yep.
You exchanged flirtatious texts.
We did.
With Miss Read.
I did.
And that was over the course of a few weeks, a couple of weeks, but just 9 days. Is that right?
So it was between the January 12th and I would say before the 28th, because the 28th she didn't respond, and the 29th she sent that last text that John died.
Well,
Those weren't.
You've looked at the text, right?
I have.
You just looked at the last couple of texts.
I did.
The last text that she sent of any substance was January 23rd, right?
Well, I think the text. I think the text on the 29th, John died. There's substance there.
Okay, I'm not suggesting. I'm talking about after you said well,
Yep.
on the 28th, right? The text of substance between the two of you, talking between the two of you, not the John died text. That substance ended on the 23rd, didn't it?
I'd have to have the text in front of me to agree with you.
I think it's right here, Mr. Jackson, right in front of the exhibits right there.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you directing me to the 23rd?
I'm directing you to the last page. Just look at everything on it. Just tell me if that fresh recollection. This is the last substantive text about you and Karen before your well.
Yes, it'd be the 23rd at 9:40.
Okay? Yes. So it was 9 days of texting between the two of you, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And aside from the kiss goodbye, you two never had any sort of physical contact with one another.
Do you mean intimate when you say physical?
Correct.
Yes.
We're talking about shaking her hand, Mr. Higgins.
Well, I want to answer your question truthfully.
I would like you to too. You didn't have any physical, intimate contact with Miss Read, correct?
No, I did not.
There was no other hugs or kisses or certainly no sex.
Nope.
And when she said, "I'm glad you came over tonight," in one of those texts that you just read a few minutes ago, she was referring to the Patriots game with John there and a big crowd there, correct?
Yes.
Over the course of that week or so, Miss Read did explain her feelings about her relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, correct? In text messages.
During the pendency of our communication, she did express, yes.
And she indicated that there's a difference between being married to someone and dating someone, etc. We saw those texts. Is that right?
Yes.
She also indicated that in terms of the situation in Aruba, she was upset by that, but it's not that big a deal, correct?
It was clear to me she was upset.
And she said, "I don't care too much about that other girl," right?
Well, at least that's what she said in text, yes.
That's what I'm asking you. Is that what she said in text, Mr. Higgins? It's not a trick question.
That's what she said in text.
Right. She said something along the lines of, "I'm just trying to be realistic. There's cracks in the relationship. It's far from perfect." Is that right?
I think that's something she texted.
All right. And you'll agree that during the course of these texts, you were constantly asking for clarity and explanation from her, were you not?
During our communication, I did ask for Clarity.
Many times. You
Yes.
saw it, correct?
Yes.
And she pretty much wouldn't answer you, correct?
She was non-committal, I would say.
Which is why you were saying in your texts, why won't you answer the question? And she would parry and not answer that one either, correct?
Well, I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of anything.
That's not my question. I'm asking you whether or not she would answer your question about clarity specifically.
She avoided questions about text.
Right. And that was frustrating because you were very interested in her romantically at that point, correct?
I was attracted to her. I don't know that I would say very interested in her.
You texted things like, why did you get my number and reach out? That's a quote from the text we just read, correct?
I did ask that, yes.
You said, now what? Is that right?
Yes.
You texted, so now what? Correct?
Yes.
You texted, I would hang out, meaning with you.
Yes.
Correct? You were showing interest in her.
Yes.
You were showing romantic interest in her.
I wouldn't say it was romantic. I was trying to vet it out.
Well, you weren't seeing if she wanted to go see a ball game with you as a buddy, right?
Not really, no.
No, you were showing romantic interest in her, weren't you?
I was trying to vet out was her interest in me legitimate. It was very normal for me to have that question in my mind when I didn't initiate this, she did, and I think it was a fair question just to try to find out.
You were showing romantic interest in Karen Read, weren't you?
I was interested, but I don't think I was at the romantic phase.
Okay. When I say romantic, well, what do you mean by romantic? What's the romantic phase?
Sending somebody flowers?
Dating?
Well, there's a difference between dating and hanging out. I mean,
Well,
it's kind of hard to date somebody when you have a boyfriend.
Mr. Higgins, well, it's not if both people are dating other people, right? Happens all the time, doesn't it?
Well, I think I asked that question too.
Right. That's not my question. My question is you seem to have a problem admitting that you had a romantic interest in my client. Is there a reason for that?
I was attracted to her.
Right. Physically attracted.
I thought she was an attractive woman.
Romantically attracted.
I'm not going to go there. No, I don't agree with that.
Of course you're not going to go there because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it, sir?
Objection.
Not at all.
So the objection sustained is to the form. You can ask it differently, and that answer will be stricken now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I?
Yes.
You were sexually attracted to her.
I was physically attracted to her, yes.
Okay, sexually attracted to her was my question.
Well, I think in the text I said you're hot.
Okay. So my question again, Mr. Higgins, you seem to not want to answer my question. My question is, were you or were you not sexually attracted to my client?
Yes.
Okay. You were saying things like, what do you want from me? And I want the real deal. Those are your words, correct?
Yes.
And the real deal with you would be to date her, to get involved with her, romantically, correct?
No.
The real deal was what? What did you mean by I want the real deal?
Like a relationship.
What kind of relationship? A buddy-buddy relationship? You just want to go like
The same thing everybody wants, a real relationship.
a romantic relationship, Mr. Higgins?
It's possible.
Right. And she was answering with things like, when you said, now what? She answered, I don't know, correct?
Yes, she did.
When you asked, so now what? She answered, I'm sorry, when you said, so now what? She answered, now what? Correct?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't agree with you. If I'd like to see what you're referring to.
Well, you just read it about 10 minutes ago. Would you quarrel if
I know, but you're giving me portions of it.
you were given portions of it by Mr. Lally as well?
Okay.
Right? Did you text something like, now what? And she responded something like, now what?
I think on one occasion she did, yes.
Okay. And you remember you just read a text where she texted, I'm sorry, you texted, what do you want from me? And her responsive text was, I don't know. Correct?
I think that was one of the texts.
Again, with this theme of her being non-committal, one way or the other. Is that right?
Well, that's not how I would interpret it as a theme, no.
Well, didn't you just say she was non-committal? That was your word, not mine.
I did, but as I told you, it's been a process of trying to suss it out and see what this was all about.
Right. So when you were sussing it out and determining whether or not you were going to advance this romantic interest, she was sort of non-committal, wasn't she?
Well, not one person advances it. I think that's a joint thing.
When you texted, you want the real deal, she responded, it doesn't exist, didn't she?
She did, yes.
And she never once, in any of those texts, expressed anger or hatred toward John O'Keefe, correct?
No, not at all.
But in fact, she indicated more of frustration with the immediate family. The kids, she didn't want to have kids.
In its totality, I would say yes.
And then on January 23rd, as you just saw, she just stopped communicating with you altogether, correct?
Until the 29th, yes.
Correct. Do you know what the term ghosted means?
I think I have a general idea, yes.
She sort of ghosted you, didn't she?
I wouldn't agree with that.
That was frustrating to you, that she just stopped communicating, wasn't it?
No, not at all.
You had been moving through this mindset of exploring a romantic interest with a beautiful woman, thought was interested in you, and just like that, it was done, right?
No.
So what communication did you have with her after January 23rd?
Well, she texted me on January 29th.
You keep saying that, but you know what I'm getting to. January 29th was her informing you that a tragedy had occurred. John had died, right? I'm not talking about that, Mr. Higgins, so I don't want to keep playing games.
All right. So that's what we talked about. No more of
Sorry.
that.
After the 23rd, or up to the 23rd, she had been texting back and forth with you pretty regularly. You just saw it, correct?
She also sent me a text with arrows saying the phone works both ways.
And as of the 23rd, she stopped, didn't she?
The texts were sporadic over those 9 days. I don't know if they would have stopped or they would have kept going.
Well, they didn't keep going, did they?
Well, John passed away.
You know they didn't keep going because from the 23rd onto the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, all the way to the 29th, she never texted you, right?
I believe so.
She didn't respond to any of your texts, correct?
Well, she didn't respond to the text on the 28th Friday.
All right, why don't we take our lunch and recess, folks? What I'm going to ask the jury to do is, can we do a 45-minute lunch instead of an hour's lunch today? And also, you don't have to answer me now.
Put it back in session, you may be seated. Put it back in session, you may be seated.
All right, can we have Mr. Higgins, please?
Mr. Higgins, please.
Oh.
Just a reminder, you're still in the.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Higgins, before we broke for lunch, we were talking about the text exchanges and the communication that you were having with Ms. Read in the days leading up to January 23rd. You recall that?
Yes.
It's fair to say that her text communications with you started to dwindle off in the days before the 23rd, correct?
They lagged.
As a matter of fact, you reached out to her in an effort to try to prompt the conversation to continue, did you not?
I reached out to her, but I wouldn't say that's what it was about.
Well, you texted her, stranger, didn't you? Not once but twice.
I believe so.
Take a look, if you don't mind, at this is a page from what you've just seen.
So he needs to...
I'm sorry. That was right in front of you. May I approach?
Please.
Thank you. Just a second.
Maybe that should just stay with Mr. Higgins.
Thank you. It's easy to find. It's literally the last page. Report permission, may I publish?
Yes.
Does that look like a fair representation of what you're looking at, the last page of that series of texts?
Yes.
At the very top, could you read what you write in the blue bubbles starting at the top?
Haha, stranger, stranger.
And then what was the response from Ms. Read?
Hey, I was at the Hilly all weekend.
And what did you respond back with?
I have not heard from you.
And by the way, if you look at the next date down, what's the date underneath I have not heard from you?
The 23rd.
So this would have preceded the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then on the 23rd, and by the way, after you texted I have not heard from you, she did not respond, correct?
She did not respond.
Then on the 23rd, she did respond with phone works, correct?
In the arrows, like both ways.
Right.
Yep.
And then what did you text after that?
I just said, thought you were all set.
And how did she respond?
She said, we're talking? No.
No, that's all I have for that.
Okay.
Bring the lights back up. So clearly, with that last text, her response was, in response to you saying, thought we were all set, she said, with talking, no. Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Did that indicate to you that with flirting, yes, we're all done?
No, I didn't read anything into it.
Okay. But you did read where she said, with talking, no, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, how?
I said, are you sure?
And did she respond?
No.
As a matter of fact, the next time you saw or communicated with her, she was walking into the Waterfall Bar on the 29th, late night hours of the 28th, the early morning of the 29th, with her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Now, you had discussed your flirtations, if I can use that word, that you had with Ms. Read with your friends, at least some of them, correct?
I don't recall that, no.
Do you recall that you openly shared the details of your interest in Ms. Read with your work supervisor at the DOJ?
Well, that was after, I shared what happened, that she kissed me. Yes, I did share that with her.
And that was with...
That was the first time.
That was with a person by the name of Kate Dowd, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was before January 29th?
Yes.
And that's because your interest in Karen Read, whether you call it romantic or sexual or whatever, your interest was something that was at least occupying your mind at that point, correct?
No.
It was occupying your mind enough to share it with your boss.
No, what I shared with my boss was the fact that she kissed me. That was it.
Did you discuss your flirtatious relationship with Karen Read with Brian Albert at any point?
No.
Never.
No.
So you were on a 4-hour drive in a snowstorm back from New York with Mr. Albert, and your interest in Karen Read never came up?
No.
Even though he's a good friend?
Yes, just something I wouldn't talk about.
You've been drinking since about what time? What time? That's a bad way to ask it. What time did you start drinking?
When are we at, Mr.
I'm sorry, on the 28th, when you got back from New York. When did you start drinking?
Well, it wasn't until I swapped out vehicles and I went up to the hillside.
Okay. That would have been, give me a time frame. 9-ish, 8-ish?
It was dark. It was maybe in the area of 8 o'clock.
And what time do you think you got to Waterfall?
I couldn't say. It was after the hillside.
Did before Brian Albert left Hillside, did he tell you that John O'Keefe had been invited over to meet them at the Waterfall?
No.
Was there any particular reason why you changed your mind and left the Hillside to go to the Waterfall?
Well, I think, as I previously testified, that it was because I didn't always take them up on their offer, and I usually did the Irish exit, and I decided because of the weather and everything else, and it had been a long day, that I would go down there and join them.
Didn't have anything to do with you knowing that Karen Read might be at the Waterfall.
It couldn't have, because I didn't know she or John O'Keefe would even be there. I didn't know who was going to be there other than Brian's wife.
Do you have any text messages with Brian about going to the Waterfall?
I don't recall. He told me about it at the hillside.
And once he got to the Waterfall obviously before you did.
He did, I think shortly before, yes.
Any text communications between you and Brian Albert about who was at the Waterfall or who was expected to come to the Waterfall?
No, not that I recall.
Now, you've already indicated, and I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about this, but I want to ask you just in general, the mood at the Waterfall was good spirits, correct?
It was great. Band was playing.
You did not see any sort of tension between John and Karen?
I did not.
Nobody seemed overly intoxicated?
No.
You had several drinks before you even got to the Waterfall, right?
I think it was 3 to 4.
Did you drink additionally at the Waterfall?
I did, yes.
Did you drink whiskey or beer or what?
Whiskey.
Okay. How many do you think you had?
I couldn't put a number on it. At least a couple.
And ultimately you left from there in your personal vehicle and drove over to, that's the Jeep, drove
Jeep,
over to
yes.
the Waterfall, correct?
I drove over to the waterfall.
I'm sorry,
I was at the
left
waterfall.
the Waterfall, drove over to 34 Fairview.
I did, yes.
When John walked in to the Waterfall, were you already there?
Yes.
He greeted you, you indicated, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Karen walked in with him.
Yes.
But she did not greet you, did she?
I think they kind of went like that in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
Did she greet you?
No.
Right. So she walked over toward the corner of the bar, and John came over and greeted you, and then walked over and joined her, correct?
Yes.
Karen didn't stop what she was doing once she was over in the corner of the bar and come over and say hi to you.
I didn't have any interaction with her that night, no.
So it's safe to say that throughout that evening, once she was sidled up next to John O'Keefe or friends that she was with, she never turned back around and came over and even acknowledged you, correct?
That's correct.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it. I asked you what she did. Did she ignore you or did she pay attention to you?
Objection.
You can go ahead and answer that. Did she ignore you?
No.
So she paid attention to you. Came over and said hello, shook your hand, gave you a hug.
Well, just because somebody didn't come over doesn't mean they ignored you.
Did she do those three things?
Hug? What was the other
Did she say
thing?
hello, shake your hand, give you a hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It's like you didn't even exist.
I think that's dramatic. No, I don't look at it that way.
Did she ignore you or not?
No, she did not ignore me.
So what did she do to not ignore you?
She was
What's her
work-
interaction with you?
Can I answer now?
Sure.
In my opinion, she was working the room, talking to people, saying hello, catching up.
Right. The one person she didn't come over to talk to and say hello to and catch up with is you.
Well, I don't know that I was the only person, but I was one of the people that she didn't say hello to, yes.
Treated you sort of like a stranger.
I don't feel that way, no.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
I don't know where she was all night, no.
Did
I
that
don't know.
upset you that she ignored you or didn't pay attention to you?
I did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text, didn't it?
No, it was a flirtatious text. It was just, that was it.
It bothered you enough to send her a text that said, with 6 M's behind it.
Okay.
And, well, correct?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was, well, that's it.
Just, well, like a well in the ground.
I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you do too, sir. You meant, well, when are you gonna pay attention to me?
No, that's not correct.
Well, why are you ignoring me?
It's not correct.
Well, am I chopped liver?
Objection.
All right, that's sustained. Mr. Jackson, let's move on.
At the end of the night, the group basically discussed going back to Brian Albert's house. Is that right?
There was discussion at the table of, like, were we going to go to the pizza shop or were we going to go somewhere else? And ultimately, it was 34 Fairview.
Before you left, just so we're clear, when you texted, well, she ignored that text too, didn't she?
Can you say that again?
When you texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her, yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond.
That wasn't my question.
What-
My question is she ignored the text, correct?
Well, I don't know if I don't know what her mindset was. If she purposely ignored the text or she didn't see it, I don't know. I didn't read into it.
Did she ignore the text, Mr. Higgins?
I don't know.
Did she respond to the text?
She did not respond.
Got it. So when everybody was leaving, did you leave before they did, John and Karen, or did they leave before you did?
I don't know.
You said you were the first one back to Brian Albert's house, correct?
Yes.
Safe to say you were one of the first ones to leave.
I was the first one to leave
Waterfall.
the waterfall. Probably.
I mean, if you're if everybody's hurting out and you're the first one to get there, you're probably among the first to leave, correct?
Most likely.
Okay. You never personally discussed going to 34 Fairview with, certainly not with Karen Read, did you?
No.
And you never discussed it with John O'Keefe either, did you?
No.
You didn't say goodbye or walk over and give John a big hug or anything like that? An acknowledgement, did you?
No.
You just left.
Well, that's what everybody was doing, just leaving.
Okay. You too, correct?
I did leave, yes.
And all you knew that, at that point, all you knew was that you were going over to 34 Fairview. You did not know who else was invited over to 34 Fairview.
My impression was that it was an open invitation, and I planned on heading over there.
But you did not know who else was coming.
I had no idea who was coming.
And you didn't say goodbye to John, correct?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming over to 34 Fairview.
No.
Yet at 2:20 in the morning, you texted John O'Keefe, you coming here, correct?
At 2:20?
Sorry, 12:20.
I did.
And that had 3 question marks behind it, correct?
Yes.
Did you text Karen about coming over to 34 Fairview?
No.
So at 12:20 a.m., after you left the waterfall and made your way over to 34 Fairview, you were more interested in getting John to come to 34 Fairview than you were in getting Karen to come to 34 Fairview.
No, that's not how I would describe that.
But you didn't text Karen, correct?
No, I didn't.
But you did text John.
Yes.
You've indicated that you took your Jeep, your personal vehicle with the plow on it, over to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And you were among the first to arrive because you were doing that thing with the sort of playing around by plowing his driveway.
It was a sweep of the driveway, yes.
And then you indicated that you parked in front of the house, correct?
I did.
I know you've been over this before, but I'm going to ask you one final time so it's completely clear. Exactly where was your Jeep in front of that house?
By the mailbox.
Okay. Can we have, with the court's permission, Exhibit 66? Okay. This is a graphic representation of 34 Fairview, not a photograph. Just to orient you, do you see what's depicted in Exhibit 66?
Yes.
Do you recognize it?
I do.
Do you see the mailbox, which is about right there?
Yes.
Okay. Where was your Jeep in relation to that mailbox?
So the back end of the Jeep, the rear, would have been around equal with the mailbox, and I was not blocking the driveway.
Okay, so you would have been about there, correct? If the right edge of that highlight is the mailbox being right there, you've been about right there on the street, correct?
Well, that would have been the front of the Jeep. We a laser pointer is, it would be the front.
Okay, so the front of the Jeep was facing the flagpole,
Towards Chapman Street, correct.
and the rear of the Jeep was basically even with the mailbox strut or stanchion.
It was definitely past the driveway, yes.
Okay. You indicated the plow was a 6-foot, what inch plow?
I think it was a 6'8", 6
6'8",
foot,
meaning the width.
meaning the width, yes.
How deep is that plow?
How deep? Like,
2 foot, 3 feet, 6 inches?
I mean, it's probably a few inches.
Okay.
It's light duty. It's on a Jeep.
Okay, and it's obviously curved and
Curved.
canted to the right?
No, it wasn't canted at all. It was straight down.
Okay, so it's not like, I guess I'm picturing in my mind, I don't know that I've ever seen one, that the front of the Jeep is not parallel to the plow. In other words, it would plow stuff off to the right. Is that not right?
I'm not understanding what you're trying to communicate to me.
How is the plow positioned as it relates to the front end of the Jeep? Is it perfectly parallel to the front end, or is it canted one way or another?
So when you're driving straight locally, where you're not going to worry about overheating the Jeep, I would just have the Jeep plow straight. If I was on the highway for a long distance, I'd be worried about overheating, so I would canter the plow, tilt it up so that air could get through the front grille.
So in other words, you can control it.
I can, yes.
How was it that night?
So
How was it canted that night? Was it straight or canted?
it was straight and straight on.
All right. When you walked into 34 Fairview, you indicated that there were people congregated basically in the kitchen area, correct?
There were some people in the kitchen area, yes.
How